Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Sotah, page 15, which continues to discuss the procedures of a Sotah, namely a woman who was warned by her husband not to seclude herself with another man. She did it anyway with witnesses. So she was brought to the temple, in which there is a lengthy procedure to be able to determine her innocence. One thing that is brought as part of the ceremony is a mincha, or flour offering. Now, typically, these flour offerings are accompanied together with oil and frankincense. However, when it comes to the Sotah, we do not have any oil, and there's also no frankincense that is put in. The only other time that we find this is if we have a flour offering by someone who sinned. That individual also, we do not have them put any oil and no frankincense. And the question is, why not? After all, why should we make it any better for them? Why should we accommodate them and have less ingredients, which makes it less expensive? Make them have to have all these ingredients as well. And on this, the Talmud says, is because we do not want to beautify this offering. We want to be able to show that just like the sinner, so to this woman who's a Sotah, we do not want to give any impression that this is something which is a good situation. The fact that they're bringing offerings because they sinned, or that they're suspect for being unfaithful, we want to make this separation between any other sacrifice and show this is not a good thing. This is not a beautiful thing. Which is why we also find elsewhere that when a person sins, which no one is perfect, but one is not supposed to publicize and almost brag, oh yeah, I used to do this, I used to eat cheeseburgers, I used to violate the Sabbath, I didn't fast on Yom Kippur. These are things which demonstrate that not only you're not remorseful, but you're almost in a certain way proud of your past. And we don't want a person to have that feeling or to give that message over. And therefore, when these offerings are brought, we want people to know that there's nothing glorified, there's nothing good about what's going on in these people's lives, and what they did was wrong. And therefore, the offerings will stand out also for them to realize that you can't sugarcoat it. You can't add honey. You can't add smelling, delicious frankincense. No, the reality is you did something wrong. And therefore, because of that, you should be accountable and recognize that. Now, interestingly enough, there is another difference. That when it comes typically to a flour offering, it is made out of wheat. However, this is one of the rare times in which instead of using wheat, we will use barley. Which is questionable. Why would we use barley? Because this is not the typical thing that people eat. Barley was typically given to animals. It was considered animal feed. It was for animal consumption. So why would we have the Sotah bring an offering which is made of barley? And it's again to teach this message. As the Talmud says, that her actions were not that of a person of intellect, someone who was thinking through of how they're supposed to behave and act. Rather, she was engaged in an animalistic act and acted without thinking, not based on intellect, but more just on their impulses. And therefore, because she acted as an animal, so too her offering should be from food which is from an animal. And all of these things are to teach us that, again, when it comes to someone who does something wrong, and of course we all have done things wrong, but we should recognize that what we did was not okay. Instead of justifying it and saying, okay, I'm allowed to do it, or I enjoy doing it, instead we have to own up to our mistakes and recognize that we are not animals. We do not just live based on impulse, but rather we have the ability to be able to make intellectual decisions, and hopefully those decisions will be the right ones.